pounds of scanned semen. Here's a bigger fuss than he So this is the season that acacia beans are green, and the acacia plant, not just the beans, but the leaves itself, is useful for a lot of things. It's an astringent for one thing, and some Native Americans would actually dry the leaves and grind them into a powder, and that is useful for essentially the same thing as baby powder, you know, actually, literally. It also has a lot of other uses, and right now, while the beans are green, I'm picking them because they have an extremely weird flavor, but look, you know, I would put this into the category of survival food, because once you've tasted the beans, you're probably not going to go, oh yeah, that would make a great staple food. But just like the other edible beans out here, in their raw or in their green state, you know, it'll keep you going. Once they dry out, of course, you can do the same thing that you would do with any other kind of legume. And so look how easy this is. Look how easy this is to open up that pod and eat those beans right out of it, Sasquatch style. Despite the extremely weird flavor, once again, this is really easy food. There you go. It's really easy to open it up and just go through this. I'll show you how many pods are on this bush. So there are different species of acacia, of course. These common ones here are considered cat claw or devil's claw. Honestly, I've heard devil's claw and cat claw used for different species, but I think it's pretty well interchangeable. It doesn't matter. The reason they're called that is because of these brutal thorns that will literally wrap around you as you try to walk through them and just shred you, and the thorns are you know, turned like a cat's claw, and they will rip you apart. I've hardly even touched these bushes, and here I'm already starting to get little minor flesh wounds. Like anything else, you just kind of have to get used to the unusual flavor of these desert foods. It's not the sort of thing we're used to. We're used to things that human beings have been cultivating for thousands of years. And these cultivated foods that we're accustomed to, not this, but whether it's wheat or barley or like maize, corn, they have been modified by human beings. Even corn, you know, maize is a modified or human engineered food plant. Some people would say that it's alien engineered based on the ancient stories about where it came from. We don't really know where it came from. What we do know is that it's engineered. And as an engineered food plant, while it tastes really sweet and it tastes really good, and we're tempted to eat nothing but these sweet foods, I mean, there are serious wasting diseases you can get from eating only one kind of food all the time. And so that's a bad idea. If you eat a large variety, you get all of the nutrition you need from all the wide variety of foods. And the other thing, like corn by itself, because it's an engineered plant, not only can it not grow on its own, it has to be harvested. It doesn't explode. The seeds don't automatically come out of the husk, you know, in harvest season. People literally have to open up those husks and dry the corn and take those seeds and plant them. Otherwise, corn can't grow. It requires man planting it. The other thing is it cannot be digested at all properly unless you have those other things that we were taught thousands of years ago to grow along with it. Beans and squash. So the corn, beans, and squash combination allows you to properly digest all three of them, not get a bunch of gas, which you would usually get from beans. Those other two, the squash and corn, keep you from getting really gassy, and the beans help you digest the corn. So anyway, once you try to go with human engineered foods that we're used to with agriculture, you create certain types of unique health problems that you aren't really going to have if you go with the variety of wild foods that were originally intended for us to eat. But the problem is we don't really like the taste of it. That's because our palate is accustomed to this engineered, cultivated food variety. And so you just got to get used to it. You got to eat it. You got to come out here, find some acacia, and eat it and get used to it and eat more of it over time. Start introducing it into your diet at home. So come out here and gather the foods in their season, take it home, throw some acacia beans into your crock pot with something else that you like, just to get yourself accustomed to the taste of it, so that if at some point in the future you have to live off the land in the wild, it's not a shock to your system. You don't get dysentery or something like this, and your palate is accustomed to it, and it's no big deal. And you can just come through, you know, at this time of the year, your acacia, and just pick them and eat them and go on. It's also the season for desert hackberry right now. There's a lot of this growing out here. It's not especially sweet. It's definitely not bitter. It is definitely edible. These berries are always orange. They have little seeds in the center that are easy to chew up. They're not really tough seeds like some of the other berry plants and cactus fruits out here. And you can dry them like any other berry if you wanted to store them for the winter or whatever. Dehydrate them. So you could do it the old-fashioned way, the old indigenous way of drying them in the sun or whatever, or you could use a dehydrator, I'm sure. The freeway noise in the background is I-17. This is that little oasis you see when you're northbound on the I-17 and you're coming up just below Sunset Point. Actually, it's right before the exit to Bloody Basin, I think is what it is. Okay, not Bloody Basin. It's the Bumblebee Crown King exit. Gotcha. You got to pull over right before that exit, and I'm walking down. This is tough. There's a lot of acacia. There's a lot of this little miniature hike will hurt you because there's a lot of stuff that'll zap you when you're trying to get down here. But I'm going towards those trees down there. Cottonwoods. So there's hackberry, palo verde, acacia, prickly pear, jojoba, saguaro. I would expect to find some thorn bush here. There's staghorn cholla. Lots of medicine herbs. There is also cottonwood here, which means that there's either water on the surface or just below the surface. This is not a place where I would actually want to go to hide out in times of extreme trouble or something, because it would be easy to find. It's right beside the freeway. However, it's places like this that are a lot farther away from the freeway that you would want to look for and choose several of these places if you anticipate ever having to get away and escape from chaos in the city or in civilization, if that was necessary someday. You want to have a lot of places like this that you can go to, enough of them that you know, that if you were hiking across country with say you didn't have a vehicle that could run, then you would know where to go one day to the next. I'm just saying it's a good idea if you were really into prepping. Most people I meet, when they think of prepping, they're thinking in terms of having food stored up for long-term storage, which is good, but I don't really think of that as the end of prepping. If that's your focus, well, then when somebody steals all your food, then what have you got? This is the kind of thing I think of as disaster preparedness prepping. Knowing where places like this are. Right up there is mesquite, although I don't see any pods on that one. They've probably all fallen off by now for whatever reason. This, of course, is desert broom. It's been fluffing out, and of course this is, we've already talked about, that has a lot of uses, not to mention the medicinal value of the herb itself. This is the kind of hackberry bush that makes a little bit of a hike definitely worthwhile. You could spend a lot of time harvesting this. And one thing I love about the desert here in Arizona, despite the fact that it gets so hot, and during those extremely hot times of the year, if you were living outdoors, Sasquatch style, you could just hike up the mountain a little bit, you know, up into the Bradshaws or whatever, depending on where you are. Go a little higher in elevation and you're in nice weather. But all through the year, at every time of the year down here, there's food that's Sasquatch food, easy, available for the taking, not a whole lot of work involved. You can eat quite a lot of it raw. So even though you'd want to store certain types of beans, for instance, for the winter, because they've dried out, still you have a lot of options for fresh food right now. And of course, the way this earth was designed for all the inhabitants of it, then those fresh foods are perfect in the season that you gather them. They're exactly what your body needs, you know, as far as the types of minerals and nutrients and so forth. Whatever it is, it eats so much of the, whatever it is, it eats so much prickly pear fruit. I don't really know what it is. Would expect to find a different composition if it was ass. So this is really wet, kind of muddy ground right here. So obviously, as you would expect, water comes through that culvert, collects here for a long time. There will be a pool here for an extended period, and animals will come here to drink from it. It's always good to see water seeping out of the ground, collecting into a pool. You just want to be able to boil it or whatever, you know, be prepared. Use a life straw or whatever your method is. If you know of a lot of places like this, like I said, that's what I think of when I think of prepping. It's not a matter of just putting aside long-term storage. That should be common. That's what you should do right now, all the time, as just a matter of everyday life. Because right now, you got in places like, New York and whatever, people are literally snowed in, and you'll see pictures of grocery stores that are completely emptied out of things like bread and whatever, you know. Those things shouldn't be our staple diet anyway. You know, any of those foods that are our American staple diet are long-term killers. You know, wheat, flour products, meat or dairy products, sugar, those things are our staple. It's the sort of thing we eat all the time. It's in almost every single thing that you buy in a restaurant, grocery store, fast food, and most people buy for their home. Those long-term killers that are our staple diet here in America. And look, so the bread shelves are empty right now because of the winter storms, and that would have to do with the grocery supply chain kind of being temporarily cut off. In other words, truckers can't get to the stores because of the storms. So, you know, that happens, and that's why, as a course of everyday life, you just should have winter storage. That's the way it should be. And that wouldn't be what I would call prepping. That's not kind of how I would look at that. That's everyday life. For those of you who are preppers, another thing, if you think that prepping is having a AR-15 and lots of ammunition, look, I mean, it's a good idea in case your neighborhood gets overrun by gangs. You're not going to Rambo your way through law enforcement that way. You can look at examples over and over again of people who've tried to stand up against law enforcement, and that just doesn't work. Don't do it. They have billions of dollars at their disposal, courtesy of we the taxpayers. They've got, oh, God only knows how many troops and kind of awesome technology. If you go sour with law enforcement, you're an idiot if you try to fight against them. So either be arrested calmly and peacefully or disappear. Those are your options. So, you know, I don't consider that to be prepping unless the purpose of it, again, is for protection against gangs of bandits and robbers. It's been a little while since it's rained, so you can see that this wash stores water very well. You'll find a lot of places just like this, far, far away from roads and civilization. I really don't want to give people the impression that that I'm in favor of anybody breaking the law. Sometimes it can't be helped. Right now, as with every time in history, there are people right now being persecuted, imprisoned, tortured, murdered. Their families are being tortured and murdered because of their religious beliefs or their political beliefs, or just somebody falsely accused them. You know, they're under suspicion of you know, being against the government or whatever. In every time in history this has happened. It is going on right now. And you can always see examples of that at any time, you know, in different places in the world, and there's nowhere where you can safely say that'll never happen here. This is why I do this. This is why I make this public. It's not because I want people to become bandits and outlaws and robbers and murderers and then know how to get away and not get caught. It is because I want to arm good people, honorable people with inspiration. Because wherever you live in the world, there's stuff just like this. Okay, you got to get out of the city, get to the mountains, get to the desert, get to the wilderness, and learn what kind of things grow in your area for food and medicine, and how to live completely free off the land, Sasquatch style, without technology, because technology, a dependence on technology, is our downfall. Obviously, I use technology, otherwise you couldn't be watching this video. I'm in favor of good, positive technology in its proper place. But a dependence on technology for your living and your survival is just how you get killed in times of disaster, in times of trouble or persecution. If you were living out here long term, then right now you would have mesquite flour, mesquite cakes, Pima style. I don't know if I will post that before this video or after this video, but I'm going to post that, how to do that. You'll have beans from mesquite, you'll have beans from Palo Verde and other things. You'll have long-term storage. You can also dry or smoke, dry in the sun or smoke, smoke dry, you know, meat of different kinds, fish. You can store that long-term. You want to learn how to make baskets, and I'm finding a very terrible shortage of materials on making good quality baskets available either online or in the bookstore. Honestly, every time I try to do a search for books on basket weaving, there's not much out there anymore. I guess it's a subject people have lost interest in, but it's an important subject because even for water storage, making a really good tight woven basket and then lining that with pitch, like pine pitch or whatever's available, you can use that for water storage even. So we need more good videos, more good books on basketry. If there's anyone who has any good suggestions, please post those suggestions or links below this video. I appreciate it. Thank you. You need things like that, either clay or you know, baskets or whatever for long-term storage. Put that in a dry cave or whatever. But once again, you don't want to rely completely on that, because as soon as somebody finds it, they're going to steal it or vandalize it or something, or report your location. We know that from history. That goes all the way back to the days of Ishi. You know, somebody finds all their stuff. Oh, wow, this is so well preserved, Indian stuff. Well preserved because it's new. You know, and they just cleaned out the cave and took everything, left them with nothing. And so, because the nature of humanity is most people are a bunch of holes, at least in large numbers. People are really hideous in large numbers. You have to count on that. Don't count on the fact that you and I know a lot of really good people, you know, human angels. Don't count on the rest of the world being like that. In large numbers or even small groups, people are just nasty. Human nature sucks. So count on that. So that should not be your sole provision. Be ready to know what to gather and how to gather it and how to eat at all seasons of the year. Here's one of the benefits of finding pseudo-civilization. You know, actually a clay pot that you made yourself is going to be healthier than this, but hey, there you go. There's a cooking pan, free for the taking. You just kind of got to get near enough to civilization to find weird things in washes. Some good mesquite trees, but all the pods from these trees are already gone. Lower down, closer to Phoenix, though, there's lots of trees along roadsides and dry creek beds and stuff that have pods on them still. It's a good time of the year if you see mesquite pods to gather them because they're already mostly dry. So the whole drying process and the time to dry them is already mostly done on the tree. Onward to Prescott for a night filled with stupidity and fun.